crashed in Pokhara city in central Nepal.
165 injured have been moved, 61 people are confirmed dead, and rescue operations continue around me.
After receiving an entire season's rainfall in a span of 48 hours, Chennai city has literally been brought to its knees.
For WION, World is One.
Vielleicht nur als Impostant.
Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Are Gulf countries targeting Bollywood? I am being forced to ask this question. In 1 month, the Gulf has banned 2 Bollywood movies, Article 370 and Fighter. Now, just to make it clear from the start, I am not here to advocate on behalf of the makers of these films. I am here to do my job, which is to ask questions and get to the bottom of a story. So here's my question. Why is the Gulf banning Bollywood movies? Is this a silent war against one of India's biggest exports? Article 370, as the name suggests, is about the revocation of Jammu and Kashmir's special status. The lead character is a young field agent named Zuni Haksar. She is picked for a top secret mission and she needs to crack down on terrorism and corruption in Kashmir. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi had spoken about this movie during his visit to Jammu last week. He had said the movie may help people get Sahi Jankari, the right information. But as per India's news agency ANI, Gulf nations have decided to ban this movie. Article 370 will not be screened in Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman and Bahrain. Why? No explanation. Last month, Gulf nations except the UAE banned the movie Fighter. The movie is about Indian Air Force aviators. It showcases their camaraderie, especially in the face of threat from Pakistan. The movie was banned by most Gulf countries. In the past, these countries have also not allowed the release of a movie named The Kashmir Files. What's common between these movies? Kashmir and Pakistan. We get that Gulf countries cannot afford to have anti-Pakistan sloganeering at the cinema, or for that matter, pro-India hooting, let alone have people from both sides throw punches at one another. But here's the thing, people in the Gulf are more disciplined than that. Or so I would like to believe. A film will not become a threat to societal harmony or divisive, to say the least. If you have been to the Gulf, you would likely second me here. Indians and Pakistanis share neighborhoods in the Gulf. They share office spaces, social groups, meals, construction sites. So unless it is about not hurting the Pakistan army, the selective ban on Bollywood films does not serve a purpose in the Gulf. Here's another reason, piracy. People always find a way to read banned books or watch banned movies. It is the 21st century after all, the age of the internet, where nothing is off limits. So what is the point of censorship? Why deny people the cinema experience? Why deny Bollywood and the theatre some good business? Also, why deny the people a new perspective? Isn't that what movies offer? We understand bans resulting from cultural sensitivity or nudity. Gulf countries may not be comfortable screening a movie that challenges their cultural norms, but banning a movie that is based on a time in history is a bit much. Here's another reason. Article 370 is not anti-Pakistan. It is a story about India. Also, at the end of the day, it's a work of art. Even before the film rolls, the makers make it clear that the movie is only inspired by real events. It's not an unfiltered portrayal of real events. It is just a story set in the backdrop of the valley. The makers have taken the artistic liberty to fictionalize a lot of things. There are also facts that have always been out in the open, like the cross-border funding of stone pelters, or the revocation of Article 370 in order to open the gates for development and progress for Kashmir, to connect Kashmir to the world, set the stage for investment in Kashmir. Just last week, the Prime Minister said that Gulf countries are looking to pour their money in Jammu and Kashmir. So why is the Gulf now banning a film on Kashmir? For long, films have been a medium to tell a story about real-life events. For long, films have been based around real-life events. They have looked at history from a unique perspective and sometimes shown the audience what happened behind the scenes. Think Oscar-winning Life is Beautiful, The Imitation Game, Argo, which is the story of the 1979 Iran hostage crisis, Empire of the Sun, Patton. It tells the story of the controversial wartime American general George S. Patton. The West has for long used films as a medium to tell its side of the story. So why stop India? Why stop Bollywood? And at what cost? The Gulf is the biggest international market for Bollywood. Hindi classics like Satyen Bose's Dosti were played in independent theatres in the Gulf as early as 1960s. Over the years, Bollywood has branched out of theatres. It's everywhere, from billboards and award functions to ribbon-cutting ceremonies at swanky malls and theme parks. The Gulf loves Bollywood and Bollywood stars. Obviously, the large Indian diaspora has a role to play here. But a lot also has to do with the experience that Bollywood offers. The songs, the dance, the plots, the plot twists. People really like the mix. They like the wholesome Bollywood family drama. Many people in the Gulf, in fact, also want a share of Bollywood success. They are investing in Bollywood movies. Gulf companies are cashing in on Bollywood's popularity as well. Indian film stars are the faces of some of the biggest brands in West Asia. Dubai's builders have Shah Rukh Khan promoting their projects. Katrina Kaif is the brand ambassador of Etihad. Ranveer Singh promotes Abu Dhabi tourism. Deepika Padukone is the face of Qatar's namesake flag carrier. But her movie, Fighter, is banned in the Gulf. Where does it leave the goodwill of the brands associated with her? So who then is winning from these bans on Bollywood movies? Not the censors, not the people of the Gulf, not Bollywood. then who? Shifting focus now to Pakistan, where if you blaspheme, you die. On Sunday, one woman narrowly escaped death. She was saved, all thanks to the swift action of a female police officer who risked her own life in order to rescue the female citizen. Her name is ASP Saida Sherbano Naqvi. She is the sole reason that the innocent woman was saved. Here's what happened. It all started on Sunday. At around 1:10 p.m. local time, the Lahore police received a distress call from a restaurant. A woman and her husband, who came to the city to do some shopping, had been surrounded by a bloodthirsty mob. Why? Because this group of fanatics misinterpreted the Arabic print on the woman's kurta as verses from the Holy Quran. By the time the police reached the eatery, around 300 people had gathered. They were shouting out threats and hurling abuses at her. The mob wanted her to remove her kurta. In some of the videos circulated online, the mob can be heard chanting, "Those who blaspheme must be beheaded." They had the woman surrounded from all sides. You can see from these videos just how scared, nervous she looks. She is sitting in the far corner of the restaurant, trying to shield her face with her hands. Another video showed how the officers had formed a barrier around her, protecting her from the increasingly charged crowd. That's when the courageous woman officer comes to her rescue. The footage shows the officer standing at the entrance, trying to restore order. Eventually, she is able to save the woman from the crowd. How? By covering the woman with a black robe and headscarf. She can be seen pushing the woman through the crowd as other police officers form a chain to clear their path. Once she was brought to the police station, religious scholars confirmed that the text on her dress was Arabic calligraphy, not verses from the Quran. If you are not shocked enough, let me tell you what the calligraphy on her dress means. It means sweet in Arabic. Yes, you heard that right. This woman was this close to being lynched over something so basic, so mundane. Following the incident, the woman even issued a heartfelt apology. She expressed regret. She says she bought the kurta because she liked the design. For reference, the dress, as posted by the brand on their Instagram page, that's the dress for you. Issuing the apology, the woman said she had no intention of disrespecting the Quran. But here's the thing. She did not. She just wore a dress because she liked it. On what seemed like a normal Sunday, before stepping out of the house to run errands, she did what millions of women around the world do. Pick a dress to wear that day because they like it. Why then did she have to go through what she did? Why did a decision as mundane as picking an outfit almost get her killed? That's the reality of Pakistan. Every street, every mohalla or neighborhood has those who use the blasphemy laws as a weapon. According to the law, the minimum punishment for those who blaspheme is 10 years in jail, along with a fine of 1 million rupees. Not to mention, it also carries a potential death sentence for anyone who insults Islam and its founder, Prophet Muhammad. What's more, it is a non-bailable offense. For long, human rights activists have raised alarm about this. Activists have expressed concern that these laws may be used to settle scores and further persecute the religious minorities. And Pakistan does have a record of these laws being misused. In the last decade, the offences committed by those accused of blasphemy have been as absurd as spelling errors, a post on Facebook, a rural water dispute, throwing a business card into rubbish, so on and so forth. And if these cases shocked you, here's more. In August last year, scores of churches and homes were burnt in Jaranwala, a city east, after two men from the city were accused of damaging the Quran. What's more troubling is that such cases are increasingly being settled outside court with violence by mobs. I mean, this is a country where even the slightest suggestion of blasphemy can lead to death. That's the price one has to pay to live in this country. Since 1990, at least 85 people have reportedly been murdered because of alleged blasphemy allegations. Even judges hearing blasphemy cases have reported facing pressure to hand down convictions regardless of the evidence. They fear physical violence if they don't. And the same goes for the police. When anti-blasphemy violence breaks out, cops have been seen standing aside, allowing the mobs to carry out their attacks. They fear that they too might be branded blasphemers if they don't allow the lynching. Which brings me back to the incident that unfolded on Sunday in Lahore. ASP Saida Shehrbano Naqvi stands apart. She is being hailed as a hero, as she should. She did the unthinkable. She risked her own life to defuse a horrific situation. She tried to reason with a bloodthirsty mob. She carefully escorted the woman to a safer place, averting a tragedy and rightfully earning the applause of many. Now, Pakistan's Punjab Police has recommended her name for the prestigious Quaid-e-Azam Police Medal, the highest gallantry award for law. In Great Britain, a great Tory rebellion is brewing. The plot basically is to replace the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak ahead of the upcoming general election. For weeks now, we've been keeping you on top of the developments, but the developments from the last 1 week confirm that Rishi Sunak is in trouble. A double trouble, in fact. Not only has his party just suffered two resounding by-election defeats, a conspiracy is being hatched by some members of his party to remove him. Let's not forget, Britain fell into recession at the end of last year. And this undermines one of Sunak's 5 core promises that he would fix the UK's growth. And so as the troubles continue to mount, can Sunak turn things around? Or will the Tory rebels cause another party coup? Let's break this down for you. Reports say that behind the scenes in Westminster, Sunak's colleagues, even the most publicly loyal ones, are in full campaign mode. Not for the general election, but for a competition within the Conservative Party. You see, they all want to be the next Prime Minister and they all see Rishi Sunak as a thorn in the flesh. They are all trying to put on a charm offensive, trying to do whatever they can to win favours. It's like a soap opera playing out. It's all very dramatic. Last Monday, Secretary of State for Business and Trade, Kemi Badenoch, held a get-together for Conservative MPs. More than 60 gathered in her office for the launch of a document outlining how Brexit had been a success. Now, reports say that those present included Badenoch's allies, Brexiteer MPs and several others. In attendance was Penny Mordaunt, the leader of the Commons and the likely candidate to take on Badenoch in the next leadership contest. Yes, at this point, I am talking about the contest within the Tories and not the contest for the general election. You see, they are all trying to determine who will succeed Sunak as the Tory leader if he fails to win the upcoming national election. It's like they already know that they will lose the polls, and so they have given up in a way. They'd rather save themselves than the party, let alone the country. But I digress. Let's just get back to the Tory rebellion. Here's a list of the leaders eyeing the Tory throne. First up, Kemi Badenoch. As mentioned earlier, she hosted a get-together at her office, which was really a way to test the waters. She is the Business and Trade Secretary, like I said. Kemi is being seen as the front runner to succeed Rishi Sunak. At last year's Conservative Party conference, she passionately told the members to stop playing fantasy politics and start focusing on Labour. Her speech resulted in shouts of Kemi for PM. Some of those plotting to depose Sunak see her as the most viable candidate to take over. She says she has no such intentions. She has even told the rebel plotters, stop messing around and get behind the leader. But you must know, Kemi consistently comes out as the favourite cabinet minister in the polls of the Tory members. And what's more, she has not ruled out a run at the top job. She says you never really know until you are in the moment. Our next candidate, Penny Mordaunt, the leader of the House of Commons, she may be one of the most junior cabinet ministers, but her supporters believe she would come through the middle in any leadership contest triggered by Sunak's downfall. She has a higher public profile and approval rating. After Boris Johnson's downfall, in fact, Penny was one of the most popular candidates with Tory activists. All the Tory leaders vying to take over, Penny is not even hiding it. Reports say she is constantly in the tea room, meaning she is courting MPs in case Sunak falls. She has told several people in private, in fact, that the party should not rule out a change in leadership before the election. She says she does not support a change in leader, but reports say she is getting ready for that probability. Next up, Suella Braverman. Her explosive departure from government last year set her up as the most obvious challenger to Rishi Sunak. She has mocked Sunak. She has called him weak and lacking in basic leadership qualities. She has even accused him of betraying the country. Reports say she fundamentally believes in leadership change. Since leaving office, she has written several articles for the Daily Telegraph, which is considered as the house journal of the Conservative Party. This week, she wrote that Islamists, extremists and anti-Semites were now running Britain. Could she replace Rishi Sunak is the question. Reports indicate she cannot. The others are much better placed than her to win over fellow MPs. Still, she seems like a challenger. But perhaps the most surprising entry on this list is Grant Shapps, the Defence Secretary. Reports say that while Grant has conspicuously been loyal to the Prime Minister, in private, he has been networking intensively. This includes regular drinks in his ministerial office with colleagues interested in defence. They are calling these sessions Schnapps with Shapps. What's more, a WhatsApp group that was created in 2022 for his bid to replace Boris Johnson has been rebooted, and the name of this group is Shapps Leadership Action Plan. Reports say he also has a spreadsheet. It is meant to track engagement with colleagues. All this hard work to see if he has a chance to replace Sunak. Well, they say keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And in Sunak's case, he does not even need to work in that direction because his friends are working harder. To his credit, he has calmed the markets after Liz Truss, but he has found it rather difficult to develop policies that can recharge Britain's growth. And as far as the people of Britain are concerned, Sunak has failed. He promised to cut the inflation rate in half, reduce public debt, stop the flow of boats across the channel and cut waiting times at hospitals. He has failed as far as all of these promises are concerned, except reducing inflation. But the Bank of England deserves credit for that one. So now the question emerges, can Rishi Sunak win the upcoming election, or will he be ousted by his scheming friends even before the public decides? We will have to wait and watch for that. Spring is about to end. We're staring at long summer months ahead. In the northern hemisphere of the world, at least, and it's not just us who are going to feel the heat, it's also the big tech. Turns out it's always thirsty. And with artificial intelligence in picture, no amount of water will be enough to quench that thirst. With millions of users hooked to the internet, tech giants Microsoft, Google, and Meta have raised their water consumption quite significantly, in fact. I have the figures, but before I tell you about them, why do these companies need so much water? What is the use exactly, you ask? Well, it's to cool down their data centers. Generative AI runs on large language models, and these models generate huge amounts of data. They need a lot of computer power to operate. Because of this, the systems keep heating up and need to be cooled down. And how is that done? Using chilled water. The water absorbs heat from the air in the server farms and keeps the equipment cool. Only a part of it can be reused. Most of it evaporates. So you see, it is a huge waste. And with most of the big players launching AI products, their water consumption is skyrocketing. Let's get to the figures now. The latest we have is from 2022. Microsoft increased its water consumption by 34%. Google by 22%, Meta by 3%. And how much is that in liters? Microsoft used 22 billion liters of water, Google nearly 7 billion liters, Meta roughly 2 billion liters of water. Yes, we are talking about billions of liters of water. The big tech is drinking up all that as several parts of the world remain plagued by droughts and dry spells. When Google and Microsoft prepared their Bard and Bing chatbots, both had major spikes in water usage. A month before OpenAI finished training GPT-4, its most advanced model, a data center cluster in Iowa consumed 6% of the district's water. It was so bad that the residents filed a lawsuit. The details of the model's energy consumption are not available, but when they will be, if ever, OpenAI will have to answer tough questions. Consider ChatGPT. It is run on an older model, GPT-3. Experts say when a user requests between 10 and 50 responses, it's equal to drinking half a liter of water. Now, imagine the number of users around the world and the number of questions they ask. They are basically drinking away liters and liters of water. And this is just GPT-3 that we are talking about. GPT-4 consumes even more power and water. These AI systems are draining away water reserves. If experts and analysts are to be believed, AI demand would drive up water withdrawal to between 4.2 trillion and 6.6 trillion liters by 2027. That is half the amount consumed by the UK each year. Where would all this water come from? And the question is this even sustainable? Doesn't seem like it. Last month, in fact, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman finally admitted that the AI industry is heading for an energy crisis. At the World Economic Forum's annual meeting in Davos, Altman warned that the next wave of AI systems will consume much more power than expected. Energy systems are bound to struggle to cope, and so will our water reserves. This AI is not only eating up our jobs, it's also drying up our wells. Tech giants, you see, have targets to put more water back into systems than they consume by 2030. And it's well and good on paper, but how serious or practical are these goals? And will anyone hold them to account? Researchers have called for more comprehensive data and transparency from AI firms. They have asked for a breakdown of how much water different computing services consume. Google declined to comment. Microsoft did not give a straight answer. If it's any compensation, at least some lawmakers are taking notice. Earlier in the month, US Democrats introduced the Artificial Intelligence Environmental Impacts Act of 2024. The bill has called to put in place some standards and assess AI's impact on the environment. It has also called for a framework in which AI developers can willingly maintain transparency. Now, whether this legislation will pass remains uncertain, but is this enough? Will tech firms ever own up to their water footprint? Imagine how much more water these tech giants would have drained by the time this bill passes or there is some scrutiny. Can we afford this amid a climate crisis? The truth is, tech giants do as they please, and they have grown way too powerful. In fact, some are even bigger than an entire country's economy. I'm talking about NVIDIA. If you were fond of video games while growing up, you may have seen the logo often enough. Well, that was just the beginning. The chip maker has now become the third largest company in the United States. That is in terms of market capitalization. But that is not the surprising part. It is a fact that this company is now worth more than most other countries' GDP in the world, except for 11. You heard that right. NVIDIA just enjoyed a meteoric rise in the market. The chipmaker stock closed at $788 on Friday. It is now worth $1.97 trillion. And this figure is greater than the GDP of every nation in the world except for only 11. It has, in fact, surpassed Australia, South Korea, even Russia. This is according to February International Monetary Fund data put together by Forbes. On Thursday, NVIDIA recorded the biggest one-day valuation jump in all of US history. Over the past 12 months, shares of NVIDIA have climbed 238%. The growth comes hand in hand with an increased appetite for AI. NVIDIA saw a huge interest in its graphics processing units, which are used by other companies basically to develop artificial intelligence applications. You see, there is a huge appetite for artificial intelligence. Despite all fears around its unchecked use, NVIDIA has made the most of it, to the point that it beat economies like Russia in valuation. Could it grow even further? Let's now shift our focus to India. The unrest near the national capital's borders continues. Today, agitated farmers planned a tractor rally. They moved towards Delhi, forming a tractor chain on several highways. Entry points into the capital remained sealed with barricades. What all happened on the ground and why are the farmers protesting? Here's a detailed report.
A tractor is a farmer's best friend on his farm. Today, Indian farmers use these very tractors to stage a protest. They beelined on highways leading to the national capital, forming a tractor chain. This included the Yamuna Expressway, Luharli Toll Plaza and Mahamaya Flyover. Protests took place in the districts of Meerut, Muzaffarnagar, Saharanpur, Baghpat, Hapur and Amroha. The entry point to Delhi remained heavily barricaded. The farmers parked their tractors in the left lanes of highways. In Meerut, the National Highway 58 at Mohiuddinpur was jammed by farmers and activists from the Bharatiya Kisan Union. This was in solidarity with the farmers demonstrating in Punjab and Haryana.
तो एक नए तरीके का विरोध प्रदर्शन करने का
This is a new kind of protest activity that we are doing to get the government to hear our demands and stay relevant. We have to keep doing such innovative things so we are not forgotten by the government.
को प्रोग्राम करने पड़ते हैं.
The police, however, blocked the farmers' tractor march at the Yamuna Expressway entry point. They were not allowed to carry out their rally on the expressway. Ahead of the tractor march, the Noida police had issued a traffic advisory for commuters. It had warned of massive traffic jams at multiple locations, including the Delhi-Noida border. Those commuting to Delhi were urged to take the metro. As we've reported earlier, the farmers want their demands to be heard and have asked for a legal guarantee for the minimum support price.
These 400,000 tractors are here, and 250,000 protesting farmers are also right here. The government must either give farmers a minimum support guarantee law based on the C2+50 formula.
This said formula states that the MSP should be 1.5 times the farmer's input costs. It was proposed by Indian agricultural scientist M.S. Swaminathan. Among other things, the farmers also want the government of India to pull out of the World Trade Organization. And why is that? Speaking on the WTO's criteria of subsidy, the farmers' union leader Sarwan Singh Pandher said, and I quote, "The policy of the WTO is very bad for farmers. The WTO does not give rights to the farmers the way they do it. Now that America is giving subsidy of $8,500 annually to its farmers in the green box, our subsidy is 258 rupees. There can be no competition between the two. The government should take India out of the WTO." Earlier, the farmers took out a candle march after the death of farmer leaders amid the agitation. They also said that effigies of the World Trade Organization and the centre will be burnt. Tensions remain high. The government has been trying to talk to the farmer unions. There have been 4 rounds of talks so far, but no resolution has come out of them. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Let's now talk about what's happening in South Korea. Now, if you have been following the developments, you would know by now about the doctors' strike there. Basically, thousands of medical interns and residents have stayed off the job since early last week, 9,000 to be precise. And why is that? To mark their protest against a government plan. What's the plan? To increase medical school admissions by about 65%. Why? According to the government, adding more doctors is required to deal with South Korea's rapidly aging population. Basically, the authorities say more staff is the need of the hour to increase healthcare services in the remote areas and also meet the growing demands of one of the world's most rapidly aging societies. By the way, just for context here, the country's current doctor-to-patient ratio is among the lowest in the developed world. And why are those on strike against the plan? Because they say universities cannot handle so many new students. They argue that the plan would not resolve a chronic shortage of doctors in some key but low-paying areas like pediatrics and emergency departments. Striking doctors have said they worry doctors faced with increased competition would engage in overtreatment, burdening public medical expenses. The young doctors want that their pay and working conditions should be the priority rather than the government's plan to boost the number of physicians. Meanwhile, the walkouts have severely impacted the operations of hospitals. There have been numerous cancellations of surgeries and other treatments. And now, the government has given junior doctors 4 days to end their walkouts, or they could face prosecution or have their medical licenses suspended. That's right. The Vice Health Minister has said that the government will not seek any disciplinary action against the striking doctors if they return to work by Thursday. That is by the end of this month, the 29th of February. And if they return to the hospitals they had left by then, they will not be held responsible for any damages caused by their walkouts. adding that those who don't meet the deadline will be punished with a minimum 3-month suspension of their medical licenses and face further legal steps like investigations and possible indictments. Under South Korea's medical law, the government can issue back-to-work orders to doctors and other medical personnel when it sees grave risks to public health. Now, here's the thing. Doctors are considered essential workers in South Korea and are restricted by law from striking. Of course, that is understandable. Not allowing essential workers to be on strike would be the practical thing to do, right? Because they serve as the backbone of a country's functioning and are the providers of essential services. Which in turn begs the question, what should they do if they have to make their voice heard? Not allowing them to not be at work is fine, but what can they possibly do to register their protest if they have demands, if they are unhappy or want the government to sit up and take note? By not allowing them to be on strike, do these essential workers end up being vulnerable because they are not allowed to go on strikes in order to mark their protest or demand what they want? Or should they be allowed to be on strike at the cost of the way in which their absence from work would impact the people, those who depend on their services? Or should things just not be allowed to reach a point where they feel like their voice is not heard, to the extent that they feel the need to not go into work in order to make their voice heard? What do you think about this? Write to us and let us know. There is growing rage against stray dogs in India. Over the weekend, a 2-year-old girl was allegedly mauled to death. It happened in Delhi. Reports say the 2-year-old was outside her home, and that's when 4 to 5 dogs attacked her. She was dragged for several meters. The girl was rushed to the hospital, but she died. The child's parents are pointing the finger at some people in the neighborhood. The parents want strict action against those who feed the dogs. Now, earlier this month, a 10-year-old girl was mauled to death by a pack of 7 dogs. This was in Uttar Pradesh. The girl was grazing goats with a friend, and that's when the stray dogs attacked her. She was severely injured and later succumbed to the injuries. Now, the question is, who is to be blamed for these deaths? There is a growing online debate. Basically, a clash between two sides. One wants stricter action against stray dogs, also possible action against those who feed stray dogs. And the other side wants to protect the stray. There is no right or wrong in this story. What there is a want for a sustainable solution. India's capital city records over 1,300 dog bites a month. In the year 2023, in fact, 27.5 lakh people were bitten by dogs across India. Among the many who died because of dog attacks in 2023 was Parag Desai, the head of tea company Wagh Bakri. Also, an 11-year-old autistic boy died from Kerala's Muzappilangar, and a toddler in Noida. Incidents like these have made parents scared. Many don't want to send their child out to play. And can you even blame them? Residents groups in societies are scratching their heads for a solution. How do you tackle this? Let's just start with the basics. Why do dogs bite? Experts will tell you a healthy dog bites because 1, they are in heat, or 2, they are with their litter and feel the need to protect their puppies, or 3, dogs bite when they feel threatened. Can you stop a dog from biting? When it comes to a pet dog, you can always muzzle them if you must feel the need to do that. But how do you go around muzzling stray dogs? Also, should you be doing that? So what's the solution? How do you stop dog bites? Experts suggest reducing stray population is a good starting point. As per rough estimates, there are 60 million stray dogs in India. The growing population makes it hard to monitor them. It also helps explain why India accounts for over 1/3 of the world's rabies deaths. We are looking at anything between 18,000 to 20,000 deaths every year. So how do you reduce the population of strays? Singapore and Japan have been able to check the population of strays by sterilizing dogs. How do you deal with the problem? Do you cull dogs? India allowed that until 2001, but now laws in India are more animal friendly, and rightly so. Compassion for animals is ingrained in the Indian Constitution. Article 51AG states that it is the duty of every Indian citizen to, quote, protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures, quote unquote. The solution does not lie in culling dogs or villainizing those who feed dogs, in victim blaming, or in shaming those who are concerned about the safety of their loved ones. Local authorities need to step in here. They must strike the right balance. They must ensure that animal rights are protected. Also, people's lives are protected. In the year 2023, the Kerala High Court held the state government responsible for ensuring that municipal bodies are conducting mass vaccination drives and also building shelters for stray dogs. Also last year, the Delhi High Court asked the local municipal body to take appropriate action to tackle the issue of stray dogs. The Punjab and Haryana High Court has held the state responsible for paying compensation in cases of dog bites. The court also gave details of the compensation, a minimum of 10,000 rupees per teeth mark and 20,000 rupees per 0.2 centimeter of wound. No amount of money can compensate for a young life, of course. Municipal bodies must ensure it does not come down to that. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Gravitas Tonight. This is me, Molly Gambhir, signing off. Thanks very much for watching. We're leaving you with Gravitas images.
Origin country is USA, followed by car number 7, 1928, Ford Model 8, Jaguar Mark 4. Name of the owner is Sri Lakshmi Daman.
India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.